One useful technique that you can use in Illustrator is converting text to outlines. If you want to follow along, open up Text Outline Skull Start, which you can find in the Shapes folder. And we have a little file here where I'm starting to draw this skull, still working on it. And I want to create crossbones for the skull. I've also got some text here, a text layer. And if I double click the text layer, you'll see that it's using the Bone regular font. Now I've saved a font links document in the training files folder for you. So if you want to go online and download that font, please feel free to. But if you don't have the font, and I was giving you this file, I'd need a way to make sure that you could see my design without having to have that font installed. And this is one of the reasons why it's useful to create outlines from text. Now, chances are when you opened this file, you got a warning that this font wasn't installed on your system. Illustrator will try its best to show you what this font looks like if you don't have the font installed and don't have it available on your system. It will also attempt to install the font for you, and will even ask you if you want to install the font if it's available on your system. But if you don't have it, you won't have that option. So I need to be able to make sure that you can see the design as I intend it to be. So what I do is I drag the text layer onto the new layer button in the layers panel. So first of all, make sure you've got the layers panel showing. If you haven't, go to the window menu and show it. And then drag the text layer onto the new layer button, and that will create a copy of it. Now I'm going to turn off this other one and lock it. So you'll notice that that's now turned off. And on this one, I'm going to edit it. I'm going to call it Text Outlines. And now I'm going to select that layer by clicking on the little target button and go up to the Type menu and say Create Outlines. And you'll see what it's done. It's created outlines from the text, so created shapes from the text. And I'm holding down spacebar to toggle there to the hand tool. And there we have our text as outlines. The nice thing about that is now I can also scale it without losing any of the formatting as well. So that's also useful. It allows you to keep the same relative spacing between the letters without having to worry about things like font size and tracking. So it's useful for that. It's also useful for other things. I always like to show you something non-standard, a non-standard use for converting outlines. So let's lock our text outlines and let's select our crossbone. Now this is a text layer that I've converted to outlines. It was a letter I think from the Georgia typeface or Times, I'm not sure which one it was, but anyway, what I've done is converted it to outlines using the same technique, and then I can do things like use the reshape tools on it to create a more bone-like shape. And as a starting point, I could just use it to make it taller or longer. So if I want a nice long bone that I can then fashion into the shape of a bone using some of the other tools, it's a good starting point for my design. So I've created the rough shape for my bone, and I can then use various tools to reshape it and sculpt it into exactly the shape of a bone. But by choosing a letter shape that's close to the shape you want, you're going to save a lot of time and effort. And we'll have a look at how we can reshape it into bone later.